Greetings, 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 greetings. It is I, your King, Clifford Jefferson, a descendant under Godfrey the Fifth kind of man Jew, the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful, known as King Edgar Jefferson. I'm here alongside me with my queen, Sister Galveston from the House of Galveston, as well as with my assistants from the King's Bench, Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont, Co-Adjutor CA from the House of Murphy, as well as Brother Earl Burgess from the House of Burgess, countesses, earls, all those who are in dire strait to come home. We greet you in peace and love. Welcome back to the second part of the English Stereotypical Church under the auspices of I, your King. We will continue with our lesson, but before we do that, I want to stress how important it is, as we read in the first part of this, when we read about the diversity of jurisdiction in regards to citizens. Very important. Citizenship. Are you a citizen of nationals, foreigners, or citizens, immigrants? Those are three questions you need to ask yourself if you're looking at this podcast today. Because we're providing not only history, we're providing legislation, we're providing case law, we're providing statutory law, and we're providing you the love and the truth behind that which we provide, because there's truth and falsehood in everything. And it's only up to you to decide what's truth and falsehood. And a lot of people can have this right in front of them and still not see the forest from the trees. So it takes the ability, like I said, to slow down your frequency so that you'll be able to see, not rush to judgment. And the reason why I say that, because to bring you back to the common law, as Smith versus Alabama said, that it was adopted by the several states and adopted as their public law, and it's subject to such alteration that's provided by the statute. Not what the judge say, not what the Department of Bioethics want to say, not what the Department of Health want to say, not what the light company want to say, not what the bank want to say, but what the common law says, according to the common people. And if you're not going based off the common law of the common people, then you're not yourselves. Can everybody agree?
Agreed.
Yes.
All right. So in light of that, I want to need, whenever you're reading something, whenever you're reviewing something, whenever you're making the decision about something, you always want to refer to the definitions. You want to go to the findings of definition of how things are being deciphered, because it all encompassing your rights, whether it's a right or whether it's a grant or a gift that they give you. At English National, we don't give nothing. It's already ours by birth. You have to understand that. So this is the reason why you always go to a forum where you can get an equitable, like I said, a fair just reply. Because chancery means equity. Anything below that is not fair. So when you want a fair reply, you must go to the law. And we know that the New Jersey Revised Statute is nothing more than coded legislation. And the legislation must conform to the Constitution. If it does not, then it's arbitrary, capricious, and outside of the law, which falls in the line of judicial review in lieu of statutory confirmation by way of judicial review by way of the judges by way of like appeal. Because you have appellate courts such as district court is a sort of appellate court, because if you have a municipal matter, you'll move it to the district court. If you have a superior court issue, you'll automatically forward that to the appellate court. The appellate court is the last court of resort, just like the Supreme Court. All these courts are called courts of last resort to get a favorable reply. When these courts were actually hung up or kept us in a hung position, why? Because we'll get no favorable reply, because they're considered to be an appeal on the status that you already assumed to be in. That's why we always must fall under what we call a diversity of jurisdiction issue because of the citizenship. They're assuming you to be a citizen, which is automatically a violation of your civil rights because of who you are based upon your national status, which denotes to status. Status, political standing, and the state is synonymous. Status, political status, estate, and standing in law are all one and the same. So that brings me to civil rights under the revised statute pursuant to findings and declarations, which I want Brother Walter, are you there?
Yes.
Read for me, brother.
Okay. Universal citation. 10:5 through 3 findings and declarations. The legislature finds and declares that practices of discrimination against any of its inhabitants because of race, creed, color, national origin, ancestry, age, sex, gender, identity, or expression, affectional or sexual orientation, marital status, familial status, liability for service in the armed forces of the United States, disability or nationality are matters of concern to the government of the state, and that such discrimination threatens not only the rights and proper privileges of the inhabitants of the state, but menaces the institutions and foundations of a free democratic state, provided, however, that nothing in this expression of policy prevents the making of legitimate distinctions between citizens and aliens when required by federal law or otherwise necessary to promote the national interest.
Well said. Now, this is very important because of the diversity jurisdiction issue, because our member, citizen, partner is the same thing as a citizen. And now we're talking about state. When we say state, don't think of the state of the territory you're in. They're talking about whatever state you're in is the status that you're in, denoting to the contract that you agreed to partake of in your everyday life. That's why when I said citizen, and a lot of times I know it was running through your mind, well, I don't know if I should ask them this, but I don't live in New Jersey. So how does this apply to me? You know, I might be in a different state. You are a citizen of the state of the English Stereotypical Church of England. Whether you're in Ohio, whether you're in wherever you are, your citizenship is incorporated with the English Stereotypical Church of England, which null and voids the contract with the state which you reside at. Do y'all follow?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a separation of state and church. But it was the church who put you in this position, which is now called the state. Because before it was the state, it was a colony. And with the remainder of a colony, it was communities who was going to the church. And those churches were the churches of England. Whatever sect they came from, they were still a church of England. So if you go to that church or you participate with the communities and those societies that were established by that church, then you are a member of the community identified as a citizen.
Yep.
If you blend in with them, they're going to automatically pursue until you establish who you are. This is the reason why we don't go up to people and just tell them, we talk to the law. Here's my certificate of incorporation. Here's my identity. It's mine versus yours. Because you claim to be a citizen of the state, and I'm a citizen of the English Stereotypical Church of England, which we have our own authority through our certificate of incorporation, also called articles of incorporation, just like y'all did when y'all incorporated on our land when we were English nationals. And now you're trying to say I'm a citizen of you, which I don't even have a nationality. So I mean, you deprive me of my right of birth, which is a violation of this very act in lieu of my civil rights. Because it just said the legislature finds and declared that the discrimination of my nationality in lieu of me being a part of my family status as the English Stereotypical Church, which is my family. I ain't talking about my family born at their house at such and such address, because that's their property. So you can't. Any questions on that?
It's all good.
Anybody got any questions on that? I mean, I give everybody one chance to ask a question. Who's confused on that part? I guess everybody up to speed. That's what's up. Okay.
I digress.
Okay, thank you, Sister Jones. All right, so as we can see, under the common law, which is New Jersey, and we know all the states under the common law must follow the common law. Because it didn't say in Smith versus Alabama, just the state. It said all the several states. adopted in the common law of England.
Okay.
And applied as their local laws or their public laws and subject to such alteration as established by the statute, which we're reading right now. So if your statute don't talk about the common law, then guess what? It don't apply to you. Because it don't apply to your status as an English woman or an English man or an English child or English heir or English successor. Why? Because under the New Jersey Revised Statute 10:5-3, binding declaration, the legislation finds that it's discriminatory to say I'm not a citizen as a part of the English stereotypical Church of England. I don't care what state I am. Why? Because my certificate of incorporation as me being a member of society was my obligation to enforce these laws as implied by the statute, which is be enforced by the common law, which should have been adopted by the state. So now I'm questioning the authority which you're acting under, which according to this statute I'm reading right now, which I'm authorized to throw in front of you, says this, and continue on and read what it says.
The legislature further declares its opposition to such practices of discrimination when directed against any person by reason of the race, creed, color, national origin, ancestry, age, sex, gender identity, or expression, affectional or sexual orientation, marital status, liability for service in the armed forces of the United States, disability or nationality of that person or that person's family members, partners, members, stockholders, directors, officers, managers, superintendents, agents, employees, business associates, suppliers, or customers, in order that the economic prosperity and general welfare of the inhabitants of the state may be protected and ensured.
So I mean, when they said customer, supplier, associates, business, employees, agents, superintendents, managers, officers, directors, stockholders, members, partners, family members, they all talk about citizens. That's what they talk about, your citizenship. So when you pull up 10:5-3, you're in violation of my civil rights because you deny me a right to be a part of my English family. I'm a family member. That's my citizenship, not the one you got on record. And everyone that's on record got a birth certificate, but it automatically says that you a citizen. You see the power you have? Power is an illusion, a result of force, nothing more. But the source of that power comes from the force of that power comes from the source. This is the source, the legislator. I don't care what legislator you're talking about because it's based upon the United States. I'm only protected by the United States because the state is being biased towards me, which automatically shows as a result of diversity of jurisdiction, which I'm allowed to file a suit against you, and I'm gonna get more than $75,000. Why? Because you deny me the right in the state because I'm in the state as a result of being a part of my family, which is in any state under the common law. There's so many ways you can argue this that they have no clue of what to say next. Why? Because we would have said in the next line. I can't hear you. Whoever's supposed to be reading.
Oh, sorry. The legislature further finds that because of discrimination, people suffer personal hardships and the state suffers a grievous harm. The personal hardships include economic loss, time loss, physical and emotional stress, and in some cases, severe emotional trauma, illness, homelessness, or other irreparable harm resulting from the strain of employment, controversies, relocation, search, and moving difficulties, anxiety caused by lack of information, uncertainty, and resultant planning difficulty, career, education, family and social disruption, and adjustment problems, which particularly impact on those protected by this act. Such harms have, under the common law, given rise to legal remedies, including compensatory and punitive damages. The legislature intends that such damages be available to all persons protected by this act, and that this act shall be liberally construed in combination with other protections available under the laws of this state.
Now, do you see the language that they just talked about, that just from this one statute, you can argue your whole complaint?
Wow.
From this one statute. Man, look, man, the lack of information you got on me is uncertainty. And as a result of that, I might be located. I might lose my property, which is going to cause me stress. Why? As a result of what? Because you're not allowing me to be who I am as a result of me being a part of my family, which is a violation of my civil rights as an English woman or man or child. I don't give a darn what territory I'm in. I'm going to be English, whatever. Why? Because I'm on English land. I'm on English soil. Why? Because it's under the authority and protection of the crown, and I'm a crown subject. That's the language you use. And it ain't like you just abstract. You got a statute right here. Chief. We got a English National. He bringing up a statute 10:5-3 in regards to him being a family member of the English National. What we gonna do about that? Leave that man alone. Leave that man alone. Why? Because if he gets in court, it's his our driving license versus his ID. How you gonna prove I'm a citizen based off an ID that don't denote to any right of birth? You got to show me with that instrument that my rights are protected as a right of birth. Because under this legislation said it don't say nothing on here about my nationality. And if you deprive me of that nationality, then that results in emotional stress because it takes time to say and explain this to you, which you're not trying to which will cause illness. Why? Because I have to repeat myself, which sounds like I'm non-committed because of lack of information that you don't know, because the uncertainty that you don't know this law, which is a result of me career planning, because I might lose my job as a result of this. Now I have to find new education because I can't get another job in the same department as a result of me being fired, which caused social disruption. Why? Because of adjustment problems, etc. All that can be broken down in this one statute as a result of you being separated from your family, i.e. English nationals. I don't care what state you're in. Why? Because it all deals with citizens.
Yep.
Any questions? What man, what woman, what leader, what teacher, what guidance, what informer has took the time to put this together and present it in a manner that a baby can understand it? A baby can understand it. It's my first time doing this. The first time doing this. So it ain't me telling you, it's my ancestors telling me, because who? I am who I say I am. You are who you say you are. You just need the language to do it. They changed the language. Now they got the language being something that it's not. Now they add a new twist to it. Now it's British, Spanish. Everybody got a slang to English language, but there ain't no law to support that slang or history relative to the slang because the slang comes from us. Time never was when you were not. If the time become when you will be no more, then it's a time when you cease to exist, and that's the problem. If you look on any census chart in the present day, you won't see English nationals there.
Yep.
You won't see it. Now you automatically pop up on the scene, and as you read in case law, go ahead, Queen.
That's what you was fighting for May 18th.
That's what I was fighting for May 18th. I said, you want me to explain in 15 minutes a history concerning 868 years. I could do it in 13. And I'll say 3 minutes for opposition. I did it in 13 minutes. Because I supersede your understanding. In regard to the first thing I went to was Smith versus Alabama. Y'all should know this. So I ain't gonna give no narrative of the record because it's apparent what's being done. I said there was a breach in the common law because there was a change in the common law. And which Judge Sabatino and Judge Meyer allowed my opposition in regard to respondents to deny me the right to bring my certificate of incorporation, which proves who we are. The judge said, no, we're not gonna allow you certificate of incorporation because it wasn't on the record yet in the docket is closed, but we allow your opposition based off what the opposition said in lieu of the authority that you have to stand on regard to who you say you are, in lieu of them denying you that right. Because I said I have no protection under the common law if they change the common law and the Attorney General is now acting as parent patriarch for English nationals. And then you can't do that. The only person that can protect me is King's parent patriarch. And I am that one because you dissolved it. And that's what my certificate of incorporation proves with that court allowed. So that means they know who I am. They know who I am. Okay, let's go here. So that means that everything in lieu of your civil rights can be now brought forth in the Article 3, Section 2 court, which is the district court, because of the diversity of jurisdiction of you being a family member of the English Third Temple Church. And don't say I can't be a family member, because if corporations can be citizens and members of their family, I can as well. And we got case laws to support that. Let's prove it. A corporation is treated as a citizen of the state, which is incorporated in the state, which is the principal place of business. Case law, right there. And a partnership limited liability company is considered to have a citizenship of all constituent partnership members. Case law.
Mm-hmm.
They got case law to tell you that they're citizens. Come on, y'all. We got to wake up.
Yeah.
We have to wake up.
If you read in point of interest, you read down at the bottom, what does it say? It says the U.S. citizens are citizens of the state in which they are domiciled, which is the last state in which they resided and had an intent to remain.
You hear that? United States are citizens of the state in which they are domiciled. Now, the United States didn't come until 1790 with the Redison Act.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had the Naturalization Act. So if you claim to be a United States citizen, guess what? You're a naturalized citizen.
Denizen, foreigner,
Citizen, at that.
slave.
You're a slave. When it's time to go home, you ain't got to go home, but you got to leave here.
Yeah.
You got to leave because you're on crown land. I didn't say it. The legislature said it. The common law said it. The statutory law said it in 2021. But yet, Great Britain separated from the United States in 1783. That ain't something wrong with that picture. And don't go talking about UK, because United Kingdom was established in 1707. Great Britain was already here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go back to this case law.
That's great.
Let's see what Judge Hill has to say. Let's start with, let's see what we got here now. Brother Gray, want to read, Noble?
You call me, Keith?
Yes, sir. You want to read?
Yes, sir.
Start from here.
It is said by Hale in his Tristes DEJURE Marius Hard, Law Tax 11, when speaking of a navigatable waters and the sea on the coast.
Oh, I'm sorry, brother. Forgive me. All right, right there.
The sea on the coast within the jurisdiction of the British Crown, that although the king is the owner of this great coast, and as a consequence of his propriety, hath the primary right of fishing in the sea and creeks and arms thereof, yet the common people of England have regularly a liberty of fishing in the sea or creeks or arms thereof as a public common of, what's that, fishery, and may not, without injury to their right, be restrained of it, unless in such places creeks and navigable rivers were either
navigatable
rivers, where either the king or some particular subject have gained a propriety exclusive of that common liberty.
Okay, so it's tell you right there, king won everything.
Mm-hmm.
The subject's got the right under protection of the king to have. Now remember, this is a Supreme Court case in the United States. We ain't in England. We're not in the United Kingdom. We're in the United States. And you got judges talking about the rights of British and English nationals over the British Crown. And we know it ain't no such thing as British Crown because it just said on the case law that United States is successor to the Crown. So how can it be a British Crown? If there is a British Crown, then it's only for a figurehead for ceremonial purposes in regards to the head of state, which is not the ruler of the government because the government is the good land. So everything they practice, once again, is abnormality and maritime law. Now, this is a case, as we said by Hell. Let's check out another case and see what they got to say about it. Let's go ahead. Sherry versus Bailey. Another case. Let's see right here. All right, start right here, Brother Gray.
By the common law, both the title and the dominion of the sea and of the rivers and arms of the sea, where the tide ebbs and flows, and of all the lands below high water mark, within the jurisdiction of the Crown of England, are in the king. Such waters and the lands which they cover, either at all times or at least when the tide is in, are incapable of ordinary and private occupation, cultivation, and improvement, and their natural and primary uses are public in their nature for highways of navigation and commerce, domestic and foreign, and for the purpose of fishing by all the king's subjects.
Stop right there. Stop right there. Now you got to go to the store every day for something to eat, don't you? And you got to pay for it.
Yep.
They're making commerce of something that you can get naturally out the water. You got to go to a supermarket and get it frozen. Come on, if that's not an infringement upon your rights after statutes by case law, says it. Now, mind you bringing the claim against the supermarket based off this one case law. Do you think you'll lose?
No.
How did you get the authority to take the fish out the water and put it in the supermarket
No.
without the king's authority, without us? Because the Virginia Charter of 1606 says that whenever infringement of somebody other than the colonies try to trick a colony to do other what this contract says, only thing the king and the heirs got to do is file a complaint. That's all you got to do. And you're protected by the Charter of 1606, which at that time didn't have states. There were colonies, and the colonies were subject to the contract as created by the Constitution, which true intention was to bring conciliation with Great Britain. The only thing they didn't do, why they didn't do it, because they was pissed off with King George the First, Second, and Third. That's why they didn't do it, because they want the rights of English people. And King George, Queen Anne, King James, Charles I, Charles II, James II, William III, all of them couldn't give that to them because they were not the true heirs. When they was doing all this, you became Native Americans, Powhatan, Chickasaw, all this other mess they didn't give you. Now, all of a sudden, now they're going to put you back in history and backdated everything with a fictitious calendar that didn't come in the scene till 1582 by Pope Gregory XIII in the same ring of Queen Henry VIII and his daughter, Queen Elizabeth I, what they called the Elizabeth religious settlement, which was a settlement to allow Protestants to come here and settle the American colonies. It was written in script already. Okay, let's read on.
Therefore,
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back up.
there we go. Therefore, the title just privatum
Yes.
in such lands as a waste and unoccupied lands belongs to the king as the sovereign, and the dominion thereof, just publicum, is vested in him as the representative of the nation and for the public benefit.
Do y'all hear this? This is a Supreme Court case telling you that the only one that can defend his people is the king. Without that, you're subject to part two sequitur being trimmed, which means that you're the status of the mother under cognatic succession, which now the only person that can speak on your behalf is the Attorney General. The Attorney General is the only one that speaks because he's part of the president's cabinet, but he's the executive power, and he doesn't do anything according to what the legislative said, because if he did, he would be following what this court case said.
Absolutely.
All right, continue on, Brother Gray.
The great authority of the law of England upon this subject is the Lord Chief Justice Hale, whose authorship of the Treatise DEJURE Maris sometimes questioned, has been put beyond doubt by recent researchers. More on the foreshore. In the treatise, Lord Hale, speaking of the king right of propriety,
Propriety.
propriety
Take your
or
time to
ownership-
come, Noble.
or ownership in the sea and soil thereof within his jurisdiction, lays down the following propositions. The right of fishing in the sea and the creeks and the arms thereof is originally lodged in the crown.
Stop. Did it say the British monarch? It didn't say the president. It say nobody. It said the crown. Why? Because the crown is crown land, and the crown land is an entail estate that automatically transferred by operation of law, just like birthright. Operation of law ain't something that they gotta decide they're gonna give you. It's automatically by law. As an heir, and you can see because case law is qualifying it. You got a right to all this, everything that you got the right to do. But they restrict it. Continue on, Brother Greg.
As the right of depasturing is originally lodged in the owner of the waste thereof, he is Lord, or as the right of fishing belongs to him, that is the owner of a private or inland river. But though the king is the owner of the great waste, and as a consequence of his propriety, hath the primary right of fishing in the sea and the creeks and the arms thereof, yet the common people of England have regularly a liberty of fishing in the sea or creeks or arms thereof as a public common of the pedigree, and may not without injury to their right be restrained of it, unless in such places, creeks and navigable rivers, where either the king or some particular subject hath gained a propriety exclusive of the common liberty. The shore is that ground that is between the ordinary high water and low water mark. This doeth prima facie, I guess it is.
Prima
and
facie.
And
Prima
of common
facie.
right, excuse me,
Prima facie.
prima facie, and of the common right belong to the king, both in the shore of the sea and the shore of the arms of the sea. Hargrave's Law Tracts 11 and 12. And after he, and
Sorry about that. Oh boy. You gotta forgive me, I'm bad with this. Okay. We'll be at
and he afterwards explains, yet they may belong to the subject in point of propriety, not only by charter, whereof there can be but little doubt, but also be prescription or usage. But though the subject may thus have the propriety of navigable river part or port of a port, yet these cautions are to be added, viz. To D, that the people have a public interest, a just publicum of passage and repassage with their goods by water, and must not be obstructed by nuisances. For the just privatum of the owner or proprietor is charged with and subject to that just publicum which belongs to the king's subjects, as the soil of the highway is, which so in point of the property, it may be a private man's freehold, yet it is charged with the public interest of the people, which may not be prejudiced or indemnified.
okay, that's cool. So you work for us.
Mhm.
No longer should we be coming in your store and buying anything. No longer to be driving through tolls and stuff like that. You're on the King's land. It's called the King's Highway. New
Exactly.
Brunswick called Route 27 King's Highway. I was born on that street. King's Highway. Now, this is the same judge who spoke in this case right here. Martin versus Liddy said the same exact thing. Now let's see what another case has to say. Roger versus Belly. Start here, Brother Gray.
Over 70 years ago, the court, in an opinion by Mr. Justice.
We read this already?
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let me go ahead. Let's see, where's it at?
Yeah, we just read this one too.
It's a part of there. Now, this one right here. Let's go back here. This was one. This is really good. All right, let's continue with this one. Start right here.
The principle here stated by Hale as to the public common of Pishkari belonging to the common people of England is not questioned by any English writer upon that subject. The point upon which different opinions have been expressed is whether, since Magna Carta, either the king or any particular subject can gain a propriety exclusive of the common liberty. For the undoubtedly rights of fishery exclusive of the common liberty are at this day held and enjoyed by private individuals under ancient grants. But the existence of a doubt as to the right of the king to make such a grant after the Magna Carta would of itself show how fixed has been the policy of that government on this subject for the last 600 years and how carefully it has preserved this common right for the benefit of the public.
Read that last part sentence again. Wow.
Okay. The whole sentence from the beginning?
But the existence.
Yeah, okay. But the existence of a doubt as to the right of the king to make such a grant after Magna Carta would of itself show how fixed has been the policy of that government on this subject for the last 600 years and how carefully it has preserved this common right for the benefit of the public.
Stop. Okay. So the common law was created by Henry II. That's who created the common law of England. Henry II, son of Godfrey, the fifth Caravan Jew. Time immemorial goes back to Richard I. Richard I is the son of Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine. All right? Eleanor of Aquitaine, Eleanor Aquitaine, and Henry II had two sons, John and Richard I. John signed the Magna Carta, and Richard I is the reference to what we call time immemorial, or time at a mind. So if anybody claimed to be the ancestors of an estate in lieu of the Kingdom of England, which should be free according to the Magna Carta, then you must attach yourself to the family line going back to the land, to the charter called the Great Charter, which is the Magna Carta, which deals with land property. So all the heirs who descended from these kings and their queens, by way of them being consort, have an obligation to make sure that these inheritable rights to hereditaries are protected by the offspring through agnatic succession. And as I said, that the existence of this agnatic succession has been protected all the way back going to the Magna Carta, because it stated that agnatic succession will follow tradition as established by Henry II, father of Richard and John, Richard and Henry II, Father Godfrey, where my surname descended out from, where it goes back to Fulk, ruler of Jerusalem. And this is the reason why they talk about New Jerusalem. All right, let's move forward.
And there is nothing in the charter And there's nothing in the charter before us indicating that a different and opposite line of policy was designed to be adopted in that colony. On the contrary, after enumerating in the clause herein before quoted, some of the prerogative rights annexed to the crown, but not all of them. General words are used conveying all the estate, right, title, interest, benefit, advantage, claim, and demand of the king in the lands and premises before granted. The estate and rights of the king passed to the duke in the same condition in which they had been held by the crown and upon the same trust. Whatever was held by the king as a prerogative right passed to the duke in the same character. And if the word soils be an appropriate word to pass lands covered with navigable water as contended for on the part of the defendant in error, it is associated in the letters patent with other royalties and conveyed as such. No words are used for the purpose of separating them from the jura reglia and converting them into private property to be held and enjoyed by the duke apart from the independent of the political character with which he was clothed by the same instrument. Upon the different construction, it would have been impossible for him to have compiled with the conditions of the grant, for it was expressly enjoined upon him as a duty in the government he was about to establish, to make it as near as might be agreeable in their new circumstances to the laws and statutes of England. And how could this be done if in the charter itself, this high prerogative trust was severed from the regal authority?
Stop. Okay. Now you keep hearing talking about royal prerogatives. Royal prerogatives are the authorities given or granted to the executive officer, i.e. your president, head of state, or your minor, i.e. head of state of the Commonwealth. That's what they use, royal prerogatives, which is granted by the legislative branch. But the legislative branch is passing laws that are contrary to the Constitution.
Exactly.
Which makes the legislative act unconstitutional. You see that happening all day. Passing legislation unconstitutional. Why? Because it's not in the will, it's not based off the will for the will of the people. Because what people are you passing these laws for? When we're reading according to case law, the only thing you're supposed to be protecting is the heirs and successors, in lieu of the use of the land, which was used for the benefit of the people, whether it was commerce or trade. It brought benefits to the king. And the king was not willing to depart from his land because that would be like just giving the stuff away. All right, let's come to our closing. Go on.
If the shores and rivers and bays and the arms of the sea and the land under them, instead of being held as a public trust for the benefit of the whole community, to be freely used by all for navigation and fishery, as well for shellfish as floating fish, had been converted by the charter itself into private property to be parceled out and sold by the duke for his own individual emolument. Emolument. There is nothing we think in the terms of the letters patent or in the purpose for which it was granted that would justify this construction. And in the judgment of the court, the land under the navigable waters passed to the grantee as one of the royalties incident to the powers of the government, and were to be held by him in the same manner and for the same purpose that the navigable waters of England and the soils under them are held by the crown.
We're coming to our closing, y'all.
This opinion is confirmed by referring to similar grants for other tracts of country upon this continent, made about the same period of time. Various other charters for large territories on the Atlantic coast were granted by different monarchs of the Stuart dynasty to different persons for the purpose of settlement and colonization, in which the powers of the government were united with the grant of the territory.
Read that again. Remember, this case law. You're in court of law, telling you're an English heir, and they're claiming that they're the English heirs, but yet we're proving that they're descended from Roman Catholic Protestants. And now our job is to make sure that this court of law make sure that diversity is heard in regards to who they say they are and who we say they are. And we got case law to support it. Why? Because the law says you can only review the statutory law in regards to its compliance with the legislation or the Constitution. Continue on.
Various other charters for large territories on the Atlantic coast were granted by different monarchs of the Stuart dynasty to different persons for the purpose of settlement and colonization, in which the powers of government were united with the grant of territory. Some of these charters very nearly resemble in every respect the one now in controversy, and none of them, it is believed, differ materially from it in the terms in which the bays, rivers, and arms of the sea and the soils under them were conveyed to the grantees. Yet in no one of these colonies has the soil under its navigable waters and the rights of the fishery for shellfish or floating fish been severed by the letters patent from the powers of government. In all of them, from the time of the settlement to the present day, the previous habits and usages of the colonists have been respected, and they have been accustomed to enjoy in common the benefits and advantage of the navigable waters for the same purpose and to the same extent that they have been used and enjoyed for centuries in England. Indeed, it could not well have been otherwise, for the men who first formed the English settlements could not have been expected to encounter the many hardships that unavoidably attended their immigration to the New World and to people the banks of its bays and rivers, if the land under the water and their very doors was liable to immediate appropriation by another as private property, and the settler upon the fast land thereby excluded from its enjoyment and unable to take the shellfish from its bottom or fasten there a stake or even bathe in the waters without becoming a trespasser upon the rights of another. The usage in New Jersey has, in this respect, from its original settlement, conformed to the practice of the other chartered colonies.
Read that again.
The usage in New Jersey has, in this respect, from its original settlement, conformed to the practice of the other chartered colonies. And it would require very plain language in these letters patent to persuade us that the public and the common right of the fishery in the navigable waters, which has been so long and so carefully guarded in England, and which was preserved in every other colony found on the Atlantic borders, was intended in this one instance to be taken away. But we see nothing in the charter to require this conclusion.
I digress. That's it. So there you said, y'all. there you see it, my brothers and sisters. There's nothing you can do or say to deny the fact that you're now standing in what we call England. Law has said it. The judiciary has said it. Parliament has said it. Your ancestors have said it. Now I'm saying it. And if you have any better sense, you'll be saying it. So I love you all. Glad for y'all to be able to join me today. I give my queen a couple of seconds to say a word, and then we'll follow online with Archbishop CA. Following that will be Brother Burgess. Following that will be C.A. Murphy. Following that will be Sister Walker. Following that will be Sister Allen. Following that will be, let me get it right, Brother Walthor. Following that will be Brother Gray. Following that will be Brother Murphy. Pardon self, let me start over. After Sister Walker or Sister Allen, whichever comes first, Sister Harris will follow. And after Sister Harris will follow, Sister Jones will follow. And then back in that order, leading with back to Brother Monday. And who else we got left?
Brother Milligan, he's on there.
Are you there, Brother Milligan? Usually on silent. So I'll leave it in that order. Now I expect y'all to remember your own order because I can only go through that one more time. One time. Queen.
Another beautiful lesson. After that demonstration, I'm ready to go out here and demonstrate fishing without a license. Another beautiful lesson is talking about the crown land and the common recovery, the figurehead, head of state, entail, fee and simple. A lot of things I learned today from the king and all of you on the King's bench. But like the king was saying, you know, this is crown land, which means that we need to honor it. You know, it's something that belongs to us, which means that we have to take care of it and just, you know, do our duties to get to what we need to go with it. And with that, I digress.
Well said, Queen. All right. Archbishop.
Well, there you have it. Brothers and sisters from the Kingdom of England, Empire of Albion, which is known as Great Britain today. The king has done a marvelous job, you know, highlighting the most important points regarding those court cases that are still applicable to us, especially as English heirs. You are standing in England, no matter how you slice and dice it, or what you want to believe, what you don't want to believe, you are still in the realm of the de jure Kingdom of England. And the issue is going to have a lot of brothers and sisters there. You're not going to want to accept that the king is back, because many of you have been living your life as so-called sovereigns on your own, which that is not the case, as shown based off the court cases. You are still property of the Roman Catholic Curia. They gave you that ideology of you being free and accept and separate, just so that way you can keep doing the commercial practices that they needed you to continue to keep doing, while they continue to keep usurping and utilizing the virtues of the lost English people, which we have shown you today that we are reclaiming and taking it back. Only way for you to be able to understand and stand on this status is you got to come back into the church. There's no one else out here who can bring you back your lost estate besides that, or he who brought it and gave it to you back in the ancient time. Now, if you want to go and do your own remedies, whatever, so be it. But once again, we only come for those English heirs, you know who they are, who is doing the great work, because they know that their salvation can only be found inside the de jure English church. And with that being said, I digress, and I leave the rest of the closing to C.A. Murphy, as well as the other brothers and sisters from their respective houses. And once again, we're telling you, we are letting you know, many are called, but few are chosen. And if you still have that militant, combative, belligerent mindset, especially on the comments that we see on our videos, we're just going to block you, because at this point, we don't have to argue with anybody. We know what it is that we're doing. We're standing strong on it. The courts see it, not only on the local level, but they see this on the international level. And everybody who need to know who we are have been notified. And so for the you lost heirs, all you need to do is trek and make yourself back home. I digress.
Well said, well said. See,
Greetings.
I told you, I remember the order, so y'all better jump in when you can.
Morning, King. Peace and love, everyone. I trust all is well at the sound of my voice. What a marvelous lesson. And the King did an excellent job, going from time immemorial into the modern day statutes, qualifying our history. The successors are administering the trust. The heirs have yet to come back and reclaim their lost estate. So we compel you with truth to seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness, and all things will be added unto it in the abstract. But in the concrete, it is your hereditatements and entail is not a difficult thing. It is the last name and surname that you hold, which is bound by your settlement certificate. So that last name was given to you by your forefathers. I didn't give it to you. Nobody in this panel gave it to you. This is your inheritance, and you come to qualify that truth with your knowledge and acceptance of the true king and heirs. So with your ability to grasp this understanding through engrams, it is in your DNA. This is why you come to this place. You are brought here to this message because it is your birthright. And like I said, your birthright is entail. It is a part of your DNA, and it is a part of your inheritance. No one can give it to you. It is yours as soon as you are brought forth. So therefore claim it by claiming the truth, that the true king is returned, that we have an estate entail, and that this knowledge is divine knowledge. And it takes a particular mind to understand, and then display it through statute, law, and provable and applicable truth. So with that being said, I thank you all for communing with us here at the King's Bench. I love you all at the sound of my voice. I'm your brother, C.A. Murphy from the House of Murphy, and I yield the floor. Peace and love.
Well said.
Well said, C.A. Murphy.
Greetings. This your brother Burgess from the House of Burgess. And I want to say hello, well, greetings to everybody on this panel as well. Happy to see everyone. And for y'all who been paying attention to us, come home, get your mind right so you can get your status right. Understand where you stand and your family stand in all of this, what we got going on. So I digress. I yield the floor.
Well said.
I think I am next. Of course, I appreciate this lesson immensely. I can't help but think of Article 3, diversity, is such an important piece of the puzzle. And I see that in the various Moorish communities, it is still an area of contention, whether it's valid or not. Some people speak up on it and others don't, but I can see how it's being utilized in confusion, only in the sense that the whole nature of our nationality has been deliberately made fuzzy. So I appreciate the King for clearing up this area. It's so necessary. And just again, very grateful that we have the King's Bench to address all these issues, and I digress.
Well said. Well said.
Greetings. This lesson really solidified a lot of the past lessons with the definition of the crown. And you can find that at Wikipedia. So it's not something that we're making up. The crown, and then the crown land. And then we had the Supreme Court case law to tell you that we are in England. And everybody who's on the bench today, and probably most of our brothers and sisters, as we found out, our last names, our surnames are English. So this is, I'm gonna, soon after this is over, I've already Googled all the Supreme Court case laws, And I'm going to, print those out and lay them out and highlight all the important points because, we've been studying, some of us for many years, but we've never had this concrete information set before us like this. And I know a lot of our brothers and sisters, we've been to court so many times and we have a fear of going to court. And, coming home, now we don't have any fear. We cannot be harmed. We cannot be discriminated against because now we know that there's punitive and compensatory damages for discriminating against us. And so that should take away all the fear that we've ever had about going to court because we are definitely the royals. And I was somewhere the other day and they asked me my name. And my name just means so much more to me now. Walker, so it's a royal name and we've inherited this name and we need to be very proud that we've come into this knowledge. So I digress.
Well said. Well said.
Walker. Well said.
Sister Walker.
Sister
Sister
Allen.
Allen. Sister Allen, yes.
Sister Allen, she's not going to be here right now. At the moment, she's assisting her nephew at the moment.
Okay, hopefully she make it back before we cease. Sister Harris, you're next.
Okay, I want to thank you for the knowledge you brought today. As I'm still learning and comprehending everything, I'm very grateful for what you pointed out today, showing that we are on the crown land and that England is here on this territory. So I'm glad you pointed that out through concrete evidence. And I'm glad to be part of this journey of studying the truth. I've always been a seeker of truth. As my father once said to me years ago, he always said that we are the worlds. We are the royal bloodline. And he always spoke in parables. And as years have gone on, I understand what he meant by that. He never really went in detail. He just said, just don't let no one tell you, but we are the royal bloodline. And that's all he would say. So I'm glad to be coming back home. Thank you.
Yeah. Was it everything that you thought it would be, Sister Harris?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I watched you years ago back in 2019, way back. And then I took a break to take care of my dad. And I came back, kept coming back and forth. And I've always knew something was hidden within the names. As we've been told in the past, those were slave names. Those names came from your slave masters. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So I'm glad this knowledge is showing that and showing proof that those names are not slave names. They're English names. And they're our birthright. So thank you.
Said. You're welcome. You're welcome. Who we have next, brother? All the women, all the councils are being heard already?
Yes.
Okay, Brother Gray, what about your queen? You want to say a couple words?
Greetings.
Greetings.
Greetings, sister.
I want to say
Greetings.
thank you for the information that you have given us. Me and my husband have been on this journey for a long time, different information. But I really appreciate the new information that we're getting.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. We're glad to have you. Glad to have you. When you're here, I can see our brothers Gray's face light up.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful feeling when you're in harmony with your significant other. Give honor to you for being here and hope that you continue on this wonderful journey that we all must do it individually, but collectively. So thank you for coming. I pass the torch on to brother. I'm gonna let Mundi go first this time.
Okay.
Peace and greetings, all on the King's Bench. I'm honored to be here to learn these magnificent lessons, and I'm just blessed, man. I feel blessed to even be part of this and with you guys. And like I said, I'm taking my little notes and things, and like the lady pointed out earlier, sister pointed out earlier, we are in England, and we got to understand that concept. and that we got to come back through the king. So
I love
I'm here
that.
with you.
I love that. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, brother.
And last but
With
least,
you.
brother Walthall.
Yes, really, King, you really, you and the Queen, brother right here. I mean, it's amazing that we have an opportunity to come back home, but to come back home knowing that we full well have recognized. I mean, we're living in a time when our minds are starting to awaken, and for every purpose, there's always a stumbling block. We recognize that. Well, there was this book I bought called Word Magic, bought it some years ago, and that book helped me uncover my mind the way things are told to us. So instead of going forward, you're always going backwards. And when you're going backwards, you're going forward. So it's always a reverse psychology. And I've learned that. And so today, you know, this information really, especially the common law and equity, that really highlighted, you know, the way we're supposed to carry ourselves. As Sister Walker just said, now she looks at her name, she feels so much more vibrant about pronouncing who she is when somebody asks. And so just knowing all the information, you know, about the Crown's land, the articles of incorporation, I was writing down everything, incorporation sold, entail, as Brother C.A. brought out a little while ago, important things for us to study. Yes. So knowing that we are not denizens, but we have to think that we're not denizens. In other words, we have to live the way we're supposed to live, and that's coming back home. So let's continue to just read, study, and understand these laws, understand and understand where we are, and let's get where we need to be. I digress.
Well said. Well said. Brother Milligan, are you there? I guess not. Well, on behalf of everybody, once again, I can't say enough for the gratitude that you have shown to your ancestors by taking the courage to stand up here amongst the foes and the adversaries. It really takes a person to admit that they were wrong. And it really takes a person to understand that it's time to grow. Because the gifts of understanding are the treasures of the Creator. And the treasures that He gives you is so important. And we got so much that we can learn, but a lot of it that we learn is for naught. So what's the purpose of that understanding if you can't use it for your earthly salvation? We all claim to be going someplace, you know, where we still got a noose around our neck. And I say it to say is that your ancestors put you here for a reason. And the job was to go through the same type of trials and tribulations that wasn't manifold as they went through, so that you can know the intent of why you're here. So when you go back home, you won't, because why would I open my house to somebody who's not gonna follow the rules of the house? Exactly. That's the problem. That's why you're here. So when your ancestors come back for you, and because everybody's gonna have to stand before the one who desired me to come back and teach the information. He's right there on my wall. So I don't care what I'm doing. I make sure that it's in line with what's desired of me as a member and as the king of the English Third Temple Church, because without the church, we have no salvation. So I love you all. Please study the lectures. And also I like to say that without finances, we can't lift the nation. I know we all got 501ks and accounts set up for our livelihood, but the best salvation is God's salvation. And there's a lot of internal affairs that has to be done at the expense of me, Archbishop and the Queen. And these are not for us, but it's for the building of the nation. We ask that you can donate whatever you can. If it's not in your spirit, if you can't do it, that's okay. But we do need assistance, because when I do things, it's not for me and my family, it's for the whole family. And that's why this is why this lesson was done today, to show you that when I think about us, I think about England. When I think about England, I think about you. And without you, there is no England. So I love you all. Thank you for coming here. And I hope you all will be diligent in your internal and as well as external time to make sure that you're living up to the virtues of an English woman and an English man, and not to be inconsistent, but consistent with the laws that you heard today. And with that, I digress. I say peace and love. And I know the Queen has the same resolve as well. But I love you all. Thanks, Sister Harris, for showing up. The other brother who showed up as well. Once again, Sunday school is going to be every Sunday from this point on until the doors is closed, so that we can deal with some eternal affairs. So if you're really thinking of seriously about becoming a member of the English Temple Church, please reach out to CA and archbishops in lieu of your inquiry, as well as provide the criteria that is needed for the initiatory procedures in lieu of your coming in, and then we can get the ball rolling, because remember, this is a destiny we're going through. This is destiny that's happening, and destiny will be assured. So with that, your king say peace and love. Thank you.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love,
Y'all.
Peace and
Peace,
love.
peace, peace.
Peace and love.
Everyone.
Peace and love.